Hi everyone, welcome back to the home workshop. Today we're going to get to work on the drill jig plate that I discussed in the previous video, and I have that right here. This is a piece of aluminum. It's a 1/4 inch thick by 6 inches wide by 19 and 11/16 long. It's already milled square on 3 edges on the ends and this side, so I'll be doing all my layout work from this corner. And once I start laying out from this corner, I'm always going to be laying out from this corner. That way I can keep all my hole spacing accurate in relation to one another. And right below that I have my drawing, which has all my hole locations. And in the side view you can see that they're all straight through. And here in this row they are drilled at a 30-degree angle. And up here it also just gives you the width of the plate. It's 1/4 inch wide. And this is the hole data, and they're all labeled A through E. That's 5 different sets of holes, 19 holes in total I believe, and they are 5 7/16 holes, 2 5/16 holes, and 3 1/2 inch holes, 3 5/16 holes, and last but not least 6 number 7 holes that we're going to drill for with a number 7 drill. That's 201 diameter. That's going to be a tap drill for 1/4 20 thread. And for holes C and D and E, they are going to be for the drill bushings, and they are going to be for C 1/4 inch diameter drill bushings for a 1/4 inch diameter drill here. And D is, these are going to be the 30-degree holes, and D is going to be right here. They are for a 3/16 diameter drill. It's for a 3/16 drill bushing. And they will be held in place on the opposite side with E 1/4 20 button head screws. Okay, so before we go any farther, you really need to do the planning ahead of time and put it down on paper. That is your work, your drawing or your print. You know, that is the communication for yourself or to another person of what you intend to do. And you want to work all the bugs and all the pitfalls out ahead of time before you start working on your workpiece. That way you can avoid making any scrap down the road. And with that, let's go to the actual workpiece itself. So here's our workpiece. It's already machined square and to length. This is going to be our 0 edge that I'm going to be doing all the layout work from. And when I start laying out, I'm going to be working backwards. I'm not going to start with the holes on this edge and work in this direction. I'm going to be starting with the farthest hole in this direction and working backwards. I think for clarity's sake, for the video, you know, you could see the progress much better if you see the holes start and then not having tools covering everything up on this end as I'm doing the layout. But first I need to get all this cleaned off of here, and what I'm going to use for that is a little paint thinner and some steel wool to clean this surface off, and then I'm going to use some layout dye to prep the surface so I can get my lines scribed. Okay, here I have some paint thinner. I'm just going to wet a rag and wipe down the surface here. And take some steel wool and gently start wiping some of this off. You don't want to be too aggressive with this because, like I said, it's aluminum and it's soft. But if you take your time, you can get this cleaned up pretty good. Okay, we have everything pretty well cleaned up. I spilled some of that paint thinner on my table surface here, which made a little bit of a mess, so I got to get that cleaned up. But you'll notice I left this mark down at the bottom because that's going to be my 0 edge. It's very important that I remember where that's at and that I do all my layout work from that edge. Okay, now that I got my mess cleaned up, I'd like to mention that before you get started on a project like this, especially if you're working with something that's like a long thin piece, you want to make sure that you're starting out with a flat, straight piece of metal. You don't want something to be bowed more than just maybe a couple of thousandths of an inch, because then that's just going to throw all your work off, and it's just going to make for a sloppy job. So what I'm going to do next is get ready to start laying out. I'm going to get this clamped down, blocked up and clamped down on the table so I can work with it without it moving around, and we're going to go from there. Okay, I have my workpiece cleaned off. I have my zero edge over here. It's propped up on a pair of 1, 2, 3 blocks, and it's held in place by a clamp. And the approach I'm going to take is I'm going to start here at the holes that are farthest away from the zero edge and work my way back. I think that would, you know, for this purpose of videoing it, you can see everything progress more clearly. So that way, while I'm laying it out, you know, I won't have tools covering up my, you know, the previous area where I worked. Also, I have a Starrett combination square set with a 24-inch blade that has 16 R graduations. And a blade with 16 R graduations on one side is going to be, let me see if I can zoom in here. It's going to be graduated in 50ths, which is 20 thousandths of an inch, and down below there is hundredths of an inch. It's just a lot more easier to set up and use than a one with regular 1/8 inch, 16th of an inch, and 30 seconds and 64ths, which would be 4R graduations. And in order, you know, to help me see the graduations on this scale, I have a magnifying visor on. That's going to help me set this thing up without straining my eyes too bad. And here, let me, with an eye loop on top, that's going to help me focus in on it a lot better. So let's get started. Okay, hole number 1 is going to be way over here, and it's going to be almost 19 inches from the zero edge. Actually, 18 inches, 810 thousandths this way, and 1 inch, 310 thousandths up from this edge over here. So we're going to put some layout dye in that area. Going to just take a tape measure, and I'm going to measure over approximately 19 inches, and I'm going to wet that area with layout dye. And I'm going to put enough layout dye there to do both of these holes. Okay, while that's drying, I'm going to get my scale ready. I mean my combination square ready to do the layout. Okay, I have my combination square set at 18 inches, 810 thousandths. You can see there it's just past the number 8 graduation and just covering the next line, which would be 810 thousandths. You want to be consistent in the way you set up your combination square from hole to hole. That way your spacing remains, consistent, for lack of better terms. So I'm going to let that layout die dry, and we're going to get ready to describe the first hole location. Okay, I have my square set along the zero edge back here, and I'm going to measure just roughly an 1.3 inches up right there. It's about the center of the scale, and I'm going to take the scriber that's supplied with the usually these squares are equipped with their own scribers. We'll get into more detail about that later, because I like to show you how the proper way to sharpen one, probably another short video. But I'm going to angle the scriber into the blade, and I'm going to scribe my first line here. Okay, and this is what a good scribed line should look like. Clear and crisp, with a little bit of depth to it. And you have a sharp scriber when it doesn't peel the layout die off and flake. It should be a nice, clear, crisp layout line. And so that's a start, and I'm going to get a few more done, and we'll be right back with you. So far in this direction, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines scribed. It's a time-consuming process, but it takes patience and attention to what you're doing. So, moving on. Okay, finally, all 19 hole locations are laid out on this plate from this corner here, from that edge. So we've got everything done in this direction. So now we got to work from this edge on up. And to speed that process up, instead of using the combination square with the 24-inch blade on it, I'm going to use these here, and I'm just going to set them to where I need it and just sit it on the edge like so and scribe the line. Okay, the first row holes I have are the ones that are marked A here, and they are 520 thousandths from this edge. So all I really had to do was take my caliper and set it at 520 thousandths, and I can just set that right along there and scribe each one of those lines fairly easy. I can get through this pretty quick. I need to grab my scriber. Okay, Roscoe, what do you think? I think we have all 19 of our hole locations are laid out with love and care, and we're ready to move on to the next step.